Well, after 20 plus years in youth ministry, I had to do something for the very first time, and that is cancel my winter retreat because of winter weather. So we're talking about today on Youth Burger Daily. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Youth Worker Daily, where we hope to encourage youth workers just like you with tools, tips, resources, and helps so that you thrive in your ministry. My name is Jay Hyam, and for the first time in 20 plus years, almost 30 years of full-time ministry, I had to cancel our winter weekend because of winter weather. Now, ideally, when you think about your winter retreat, you want the winter weather. You want to make sure there's snow. You want to plan lots of activities and things that are in the snow, maybe tubing, maybe sledding. And that's what we were hoping for and planning for months, our winter weekend with snow. We chose to go to my favorite location, Pine Springs Camp in Jennerstown, PA. It's a camp in a space that's near and dear to my heart. I was on staff there. I've taken students to that camp since about the year 2000. And we love going to Pine Springs Camp. Great facilities, but they got this great tubing hill off the backside of their pool that is just amazing. Students love it, and we can't wait. It's like the selling point of the weekend, tubing down this hill. And so we were praying and hoping and watching the weather. You know, just give us God, just give us snow on the weekend so we can have a great weekend. Well, we got snow. Not just snow, but as we were watching the weather, we were getting ice. And as we watched the weather forecast, it was becoming more and more imminent that we were going to get pounded with an ice storm that later turned into snow. And so, of course, if you're a youth worker and you're planning a big retreat like this, like you're watching to see how this is going to impact things. And so Tuesday night, when we have our weekly gathering, we had our students. We were full steam ahead. We had not canceled anything. But I did acknowledge the weather report with our leaders and said, hey, this is a possibility. Like, we have to watch this. And so we're gonna take the next couple days to watch where this storm comes in at and just how it will impact our time this weekend. And sure enough, by Thursday evening, we were postponing our winter retreat. And like I said, that's the first time that I have ever had to postpone any type of winter, fall, summer camp, mission trip. Like, we've never had to cancel or postpone a major event like this. And as I sat on Thursday and Friday, looking at the weather and watching to see how this storm was gonna hit us, the back of my mind, I was like, you know, what would be my criteria? What is it that would make me say, you know what, it's just not worth us going? Now, if you watch any of my other vlogs, when it comes to winter weather, you know that I generally side on the air of caution. Having once been part of an event where students had to travel to our facility to participate, a major storm came. And at the time, I was not the director. I was one of the directors, but I was not the one in charge of things. And we did not cancel, and a kid drove off the road because of the weather conditions and into a ditch and into a tree full with other students. I mean, his car was packed with other kids. Fortunately, no one was seriously injured aside from some bumps and bruises. Well, that little, experience there kind of pushed for me a reality that, sometimes it's not always best just to push on, knowing that you're putting parents' kids at risk, or even parents themselves at risk to get their kids to your event. And so for me, I've always erred on the side of caution, saying, you know what, if as a parent I'm not comfortable driving my kid to whatever this event is, then why should I expect other parents to do the same? Plus, sometimes it just makes sense, because when those things happen, your numbers generally dip. And not that it's about the numbers, but sometimes some of the things that we do are based on numbers, and that'll be a whole nother vlog episode in the future. But as we watched the weather, we knew that this was going to be something that we were going to have to pull the plug on. And so what I thought I would do today is not just share that we postponed our retreat, but to actually share some of the thoughts that were going through my mind as we were watching the weather and making phone calls and checking in with the various locations to see how things were progressing and what we might do. And so let me just take a few minutes to share with you kind of the thought process of what went into making the decision to postpone our winter retreat. First one obviously is safety. We put safety as a high priority on what we do as a student ministry, and if the elements or conditions warrant that it is no longer safe for students to participate in things, then we're going to lean to the side of saying, hey, let's postpone or cancel this event. And so as we watched the weather, we knew that we were going to have a significant ice storm hit us that would leave more than a half an inch of ice on the road, followed immediately by about 3 or 4 inches of snow, depending on where we fell in that snowfall. And sure enough, at the time that we were slated to leave, the roads were an absolute disaster. The ice storm had brought power outages throughout our area. We had down limbs, down wires, down trees, down branches. We had road closures throughout our community. My own home was impacted. We lost power, we lost internet, we lost phone. We had significant limb damage around the property and in our neighborhood. So that was just Thursday night into Friday morning when we woke up. Friday, once the snow hit, it just escalated. The danger and the risk factor just increased substantially, to the point that while I had talked with the bus company on Thursday, they later called me on Friday to confirm that they were not able to put a bus on the road safely. The local turnpike now has stipulations that say when weather conditions are such and such, they restrict the type of vehicles that are allowed on the highway. And in our case, as it was this past weekend, they were not able to put a bus on the highway. Not only that, I later heard from the camp director, who was just checking in to see how we were doing in our neck of the woods. He notified me and said that one of the roads were closed that would lead us to camp. And so just getting up to the camp would have been a significant hurdle for us. And so all of those things combined, the ice, the snow, transportation issues, road closures, down wires, power outages, it just felt like, you know what, this trip wasn't going to happen. And so we made the decision on Thursday evening to postpone everything. And then of course Friday morning, that postponement was we felt good about that because we saw the conditions and how bad it was, and it made sense for us to postpone. So safety, number one issue. If it's not safe, don't put your students, don't put your families at the risk of doing something simply because you're afraid to postpone or cancel. I would always recommend postponing or cancel if there's any doubt that you could pull this off, pull your event off, your activity off in a safe way. So number one, safety. Second thing was communication. We now had to communicate with everybody that the trip was postponed, including the camp and the bus company that was traveling or going to provide the transportation for us to get to the camp facility. And so we immediately sent out an email to all of those who were involved in the weekend. Parents, students, leaders, all were communicated over email. We then took that same email, posted it on our website, and then posted it on Facebook in its entirety so that everyone could see exactly what we were putting out there. And then we made sure to put something on Instagram and our other social media platforms. And then on Friday, now we did all that Thursday, now on Friday, we followed up with just simple reminders. Hey, don't forget the retreat has been postponed. So we hit up Facebook and Instagram again, and we put together a video just explaining what's going on and why we were making this decision. And we made sure to put all those things out there for everybody. The last thing we did in communication was to send out a text message to all of our students, just reminding them that in fact the weekend had been postponed, just in case we missed anything anywhere. that last text message was a way for us to communicate that final word. Now, part of the communication, not only alerting people to our decision, was the communication that took place to make the decision. And for that, my whole thing, when I'm in student ministry, my goal is to always be talking with my leadership team. So conversations with my leadership team, conversations with our pastoral team, conversation with a few key parents. All of this happens before any decision's made. And so I'm looking for advice, I'm looking for insight, I'm looking for what have you done in the past, what's been the tradition for the church itself, what have we done in previous years that may help us make a decision this year, what policies do we have, what's our general rule of thumb for best practices when it comes to something like this, because we want to make sure that we're touching bases, we're communicating what we're doing, and we have a plan in place for that process. And so talking with our pastors, talking with my leadership team, talking with a few key parents, all was a part of the communication that took place before we actually postponed everything. So communication has two folds. One, you want to communicate with everybody who's involved, and two, you want to communicate with your leadership so that you know that they're in the loop and you're getting their advice and their support in the decision that you're about to make. The third thing is what then comes next, because not only do we postpone the retreat, but we have to have a plan in place for what's going to happen in lieu of that weekend. Are we going to reschedule? Is it going to be canceled permanently? Is it going to take a different look because we have to do it at a different time? And so the next part of this is what comes next, and that's what we've been working on since Thursday. As soon as we decide to postpone the weekend, we got right on inquiring at the camp what availabilities they might have in the weekends to come. We started talking about what leaders are available to continue to do the retreat if we were to move it. We got our winter retreats way back in the fall, and so everybody knew this weekend was coming. And we need our leaders to be a part of this. And so communicating with them as to what the new possible date is super important. Communicate with the bus company. We've already paid for that service and they're willing to drive us, but we have to make sure we pick a weekend that fits their schedule so that they can actually provide us with a bus and a driver. Otherwise, we have a weekend but no transportation. And so as we think of what's coming next, we want to make sure the weekend happens, but it's going to be looking a little differently. And so initially we thought we had a weekend right off the bat, but now as we've been kind of polling our leaders and looking at calendars, now we've run into the situation where that weekend is not ideal, nor are any of the other weekends that the camp has available. And the weekends that we are available, now the camp is booked. And so now we're in a predicament of what does it look like now for us to reschedule this event. And unfortunately, we're gonna have to be looking for a different venue and try to do all of this retreat, but do it in a different way. And so the what's next process is quickly becoming a little bit of a challenge, because we have to figure these things out, and we have to do it relatively quickly, because it's already February, and before we know it, kids will be thinking about getting out of school. We got to get this booked and happening before we run out of weekends to actually pull off a winter retreat. So the whole what's next, the rescheduling, is a complication. But we're not so much tied to this idea of having to reschedule a winter retreat that we're gonna, move heaven and earth to make sure this happens. What we do realize is our students just want to get away. And so when the timing is right, when the weekend is right, we can still use our resources and just move it, do something different. The point is that we do something. We don't want to let this become an event that just goes away. We've got parents who have put money into the program so that the students can go. We have done fundraising, and so people have donated funds for this event and for the students to go away. And so we have to make sure that we honor those things, and so we just can't sweep it under the carpet and say, oh, we'll do it next year, without alerting everybody to the possibility that, you know what, this may just, it just might not work, and we may have to think about something different. And so that's what we're doing. So here's what I'd love to hear from you, though, is if you've ever been in a situation where you've had to cancel a winter retreat, a fall retreat, summer camp, mission trip, what have been your steps in deciding, yes, we need to postpone or cancel? What does it look like for you to communicate all of that? And what does it look like for you to reschedule that event, if at all possible? I'd love to hear what you've done in the past. I'd love to learn from you. Maybe something that you did would help us in some decisions that we have to make moving forward. But I'd love to hear, have you ever had to cancel or postpone a retreat or a trip for your students, and then have to go through the whole process of rescheduling it? Share your comments below, or go over to the website and put your comments on the blog that goes along with this video. I'd love to learn from you, and maybe ask you a few questions about how you handled all of this. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Do go over and visit us at the website, theyouthworkerdaily.com. Other blogs, resources, tips, helps, resources, all there for you. We'd love for you to go and check that out, and be sure you're following us on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're there, we're posting. We'd love for you to be a part of the conversation. Just look us up at YTH Worker Daily. It's at YTH Worker Daily. Thanks so much for watching this episode. Make sure you join us back for another one. Until then, this is the Youth Worker Daily.